Hi, this is Ari Kopel and Serena in Shattering the Matrix. We're experiencing laughter because we've been talking behind the scenes, of course, again. And why do we do this? Because radio shows are just not enough to be able to get all the ranting that we have inside us, because, you know, we just see things, we observe, and, you know, we take a look at the world, and we have the capacity of doing that. And it's so strange and bizarre that just talking to ourselves is not enough. So then I seek Serena out, or she'll seek me out, and then we'll have these amazing conversations that are in itself, you know, radio shows. And of course, sometimes I'm not recording those, or we're not live on air. So, but the subject matter kind of carries through and allows us to express these through the radio show. But you know, I was trying to get a hold of her today, and I figured, well, here I am. I'm going to have another one of these soliloquies, and I don't particularly care to do that, but I do them if I have to. You know, I don't, like I mentioned last time, I don't particularly care for being on air because it's not my thing. It's out of my comfort zone, and it's out of Serena's comfort zone as well. Is that right, pretty much, over there on the other side there?
Yes.
It's out of your comfort zone. Okay, so we're both doing this because, you know, we totally enjoy doing this. Not, right, not. No. But we do have the responsibility to get a message out if it's given to us to do that. And therefore, we're doing it. So one of the things that we were talking about is the fact that, you know, we pretty much have had it. We don't really, you know, we were even thinking of not even having the show because we don't really know what to say anymore, because pretty much we feel we've expressed everything. And just when we think we've expressed everything, you know, we realize that we haven't really even touched the surface of all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and things that need to be corrected. Not so much, yes, in the world, but then with the way of thinking of the light beings that are here incarnated as in human bodies, calling ourselves light workers / light warriors, that have, you know, we seem to be still all over the place, Serena, with belief systems and philosophies, to the point that you and I we're feeling that even expressing these things in the radio, we feel that perhaps are we really doing or being of service, presenting this side of things, when in reality we don't even know if this is even correct information either. Right? Isn't that what you were expressing before?
Yeah. But let's clarify correct, because I think that it sounds a little. Somebody can hear that and think that we're just having discussions with people just to have discussions.
Correct.
No. Correct is a very loose term. The people we've had on our show, we believe to be correct in most of what they're saying, or in the most important gist of what they're saying. Not that 100% of what they're saying is true for everybody. That's not even possible. Okay? So we say that most of their information is correct, or the topic at least is correct, that we have talked about and discussed with other people. However, how do you really know something that took place 6,000 years ago really took place, just because somebody says that they can see it in their mind's eye, or during their ayahuasca journeys, or because they contacted certain records? I don't want to mention names at this point. I may later want to mention names.
Well, that's after you had your how many sips of wine after that? That'll loosen that little aspect of giving that information out.
Yeah, quite well. Yeah, well, not only that, but I have to be really, really sure. But I'm not going to mention names, but a lot of people are talking about certain things, and these men seem to have the answers. Oops. Did I say these men?
You did.
To have all the answers?
You did say that.
Oh no.
I heard you say that.
Oh God. Okay. Well, let me clarify that one too. It seems that they, as usual, seem to have all the answers for what has happened on this planet and what is happening on this planet for every single person on this planet and whoever lived in the past and whoever lived, period. Mm-hmm. They are talking, when they say all souls or all spirits, they are talking all of them, are they not?
Yeah.
And this is simply not possible. No one person can speak for every single soul on this planet or every single soul that has ever lived or whoever will live. No one person can speak for every single one and say that they know definitively that what they are saying applies to every single person on the planet. This is just not even possible. However, this is what they're saying. And some of these people that I'm listening to have completely different stories. I mean, there are similarities, and one may have pieces that the other one doesn't have, and they can agree with each other. But I'm finding that there is a great discord, and there is not just fundamentally something that is uncomfortable for me, but that there is a lot that is missing. Okay? Now, I know, what I do know, one of the things I do know is that if I can conceive something with my own mind, if I can conceive of it, then it exists. It exists somewhere. It exists. And this goes for anyone and everyone. Right? If you can even conceive of something, it's already in the mind of God. It's already there. It's already there. So what some of us are doing are tapping into it, and we're pulling it through. And that's where knowledge, I believe, comes from. Mm-hmm. But I can't sit with these stories that they're giving us, these popular ones that are coming out on the alternative network right now, because there is a lot missing. They are not speaking for another aspect of life. And I have to specify, because I am feeling it distinctly, that what they are lacking is the feminine virtue.
Yeah.
The feminine way of life, the feminine way of thinking, the feminine way of feeling, the feminine way of perceiving this world, the feminine way of defining what God is, the feminine way of defining how life was meant to be lived, the feminine way of defining how people were meant to be living. All of that is so distinctly missing that their stories are the equivalent of another slap in the face. Yep. It is so incomplete. It is so lacking in a bigger picture that I am boggled that people are not only falling for this because it's the newest, best, newest, cutting-edge news story, but for me, it's still the same. It has the same lack that all the other stories before them have had. There is something missing that even I can see. I am just one person, and I can see what is missing. And I am just a single human being. So, that said, yeah, I would take everything that they're saying with a grain of salt. I think they're filling in some of the pieces of the puzzle, or they're, it's a piece of the fractal, however you want to phrase it. But there are still things missing, and they don't have them, and they don't see them. And it hurts me. It hurts me that these pieces are missing, that they're not talking about things that I know.
Okay, so then we're talking about, to, I guess, rephrase this or put it in context, the explanations that some experts are giving with respect to what? The creation, with respect to humanity's history, and maybe all of that is maybe being presented only in it's being presented in a certain way, and lacking all of that which you just said. Is that what you're saying, more or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there is a common denominator in all of their stories. And the common denominator is that not only are they lacking the feminine, but when they do reference the feminine, they are talking about how the feminine screwed up everything. Now, we're talking about from the Bible, and Eve, of course, that most famous story, who took a bite of the apple and offered a bite to, her beloved Adam, because she wanted to have him partake of this fruit of knowledge with her. Mm-hmm. But she is the downfall and the bane of all humanity, this most evil bitch woman that created every freaking evil on the planet you can imagine, and every child born from now on is going to be born through pain, and childbirth is going to be suffering, and every woman not even born and every son not even born is going to suffer in life because this woman gave Adam a bite of an apple. Right? And then there's the other story that the Gnostics are telling from the Nag Hammadi library, that Sophia made a couple of mistakes. She was so excited about this creation of humanity that was being created, because these are experimental eons. These are gods and goddesses, and they created, and this is what they did. And they like to create things that life forms that were experiments, and deposit them on various planets and see what happens. But Sophia, or Sophia, as I prefer to say, Sophia was so excited about this human experiment, and she so wanted to see that this divine human being realized their divine potential, and she got so excited that she fell. She fell from the center of the universe to the far ends of reaches of the galaxy, to the outer arms, where there was all this density. But not only did she fall by getting excited, slipping on this freaking proverbial banana peel again, right? That she bumped into this density, this material that was hanging out at the ends of the universe there. Right. And by bumping into this and colliding with it, this collision created something called the archons, right? So she made another mistake, right?
Yep.
So
Two
it's
mistakes.
Just mistake after mistake after mistake, and no matter where you look, in any creation myth, or any creation story, right, it is always the female that has totally and completely fucked up. Yep. However, I have been watching this planet for 40 years. 40 years I have been watching what's been going on this planet, because at 10 years old, I decided I was going to do that. And like I said before, if there is any truth to the axiom, as within, so without, as above, so below, if there is any truth to that, then everything that I have observed on this planet has shown that the entire and complete degradation and downfall of humanity has come from the acts of men. Not from the woman, but from the male. And that the greatest problem and toxicity on this planet, the only danger that this planet truly faces, is not an asteroid, is not a plague, is not a virus, they're not ETs, it's not an alien invasion, it's not an earthquake, a volcano or tsunami or any of those things. That the greatest danger on this planet are the deeds of the psychopathic human male, of which there are way too many. And this is what I have observed for the past 40 years. So why do all of these stories talk about this horrific thing that the woman has done, some pathetic, stupid, idiotic thing? She ate an apple. In the cosmic universe, she got excited about humanity and their divinity, and that was causing her fall from grace. You see? Right? And then other stories that I don't even want to get into, because they don't deserve my attention anymore. And so this has got me, it has got me a little bit upset and peeved. And so when I hear these men talking about these stories and the great mistake of the woman, I'm looking at the planet for at least 40 years and then its entire history, and I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing the opposite.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if a person is conscious and is, I guess, of integrity with themselves, and observes what's going on the planet, you will see a pattern. I mean, how can you not see that most of the atrocities are created by psychopathic people that happen to be, I mean, there's only two genders. It just happens to be the male gender. I mean, how else can you see that? There's no other nice way to putting it. And unfortunately, yeah, it'll piss off a lot of males, unfortunately, that happen to be, of course, not all males are like that, but whatever forces are causing this evil to happen on the planet happen to be using those that are embodied in male bodies. I mean, there's just no other way of seeing it. I mean, you've got to be dead not to realize that, or totally, a zombie.
Or brainwashed, and most people are brainwashed.
I mean, not to see that.
That's just the way it is, and so, I don't want to even get into that, because that is difficult for people to digest, and I don't need for them to do that, actually. But the point is that these stories are coming, that these people who are talking about all of these creation stories about exactly what happened in the galactic history of humanity and Star Wars and other races and other species, and how Earth was created, how humanity was created, all of them have this common denominator, and I'm sick of it. So not only do they have that, but they're lacking vision. They're lacking vision. They're not asking the woman how she perceives the world and how she would create it if she could. They're not asking her, you see.
Right.
They're telling her. They're telling everyone the way it went down.
Right. But here's the problem too with that, Serena, is that's true. That's exactly what I'm observing as well. More or less, probably a little longer than you. We're basically the same age, but I guess I started worrying about it even sooner for some reason.
Before 10 years old?
Yeah. But the woman is also responsible with this. What I'm going to say is that we're not speaking up either. We're allowing this to happen to us. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we bought the story? Did we buy the story? Do we believe that we're less than, that we're second class, that we're the last rung on the totem pole there? What do we believe that we're allowing the psychopathic beings on the planet control us? And again, it's like what I mentioned in my radio show last week, is that a lot of us even are in very dysfunctional type of relationships because it's preferable than to be on our own, to be by ourselves, to be independent.
Or homeless.
Or
shelterless, which I think most of the time is the case.
So how do we address that? How do we?
You know what? I have a simple idea. How about we ask the women, and let's see what they say.
That's a good thing. I mean,
it's very simple.
Yeah. But haven't you had conversations like that in the past?
Of course.
And they haven't gone very well?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? A lot of denial?
It's a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that the idea that this could be true is so traumatic to the mind of the woman that she can't conceive of it. Why? Because she's projecting. See, women, we all project, right? What does this mean, projection? Projection means that what we believe in any concept or idea of anything, for example, let's define love, right? We will define love in a certain way, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how it behaves. Because we have this definition, we assume everybody else has the same definition of love.
Right.
We just assume it. It's natural. It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I was growing up, I could see the thoughts of people, right? I assumed everybody could do that.
Right.
I thought everybody could do that. I didn't know there were people who couldn't do that. It took me an entire lifetime to learn that people couldn't do that, and it was shocking when I found out that they couldn't do that. And I was seeing and hearing things that other people, could not hear and see, not because, I was, extra busy, but because they were lacking an ability. I assumed everyone had the ability.
Right.
So these are just two examples. So we project a lot, especially women as a collective, as a group, and we feel that what we call love is the same for everybody. And we assume that because we would never organize ourselves into an underground group that is financed by criminal activity and drug selling and things like this, organizing how to entice and manipulate children into getting them into groups and in areas where pedophiles can have their way with them. Because we cannot imagine doing this ourselves. We cannot think that anybody else could do this. Right? So women are always projecting. They say, oh, I can't imagine this, so therefore it can't be done. Well, it's being done.
Yeah.
All kinds of things they can't imagine are being done constantly. So one of those reasons is projection. Women simply can't imagine that other beings are doing such horrific things that they can't do. The other one is because she's been so entrained and so brainwashed and conditioned into being a second-rate citizen on this planet, from every creational myth and every religion you can imagine, to what's happening to this day on this planet, in every country, everywhere, right? That she still is just this lesser creature. She's not as smart. She just can't be, right? And people will tell you that. I had a man in my house stand and tell me that. Okay? And so she's convinced through generation after generation and thousands of years that she isn't. And so for those women who aren't convinced, then there are, circumstantial situations where her financial circumstances are dependent on the male. I mean, how many women are still dependent on their husbands?
Yep.
And they're still engaged in activities and trying to keep a relationship alive just so that she can have a place to live.
Yep.
How many women on the planet are doing this? This is one of the most common things. I mean, please. Anybody who denies that is ridiculous. And so because she doesn't want to think about that, she will deny it. And she'll say, oh, it's not that bad. Because women will take more shit in the name of keeping the peace.
Because we think we deserve it, too. Especially if we're being told, that we deserve that. Yeah.
Because she thinks she deserves it, or she's trying to keep the peace, and she doesn't want to be thrown out. She doesn't want to, she has children to take care of. There's too many things. This world is not built for women and for what women do. It's not built for her. It is completely hostile. So when she has to, separate her femininity in order to go out into the world to become a man and pound the pavement and do all those things that men do, then it becomes a serious problem, and there is serious cognitive dissonance going on. Dissonance.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's the other reason. I mean, and the other is that most women are in poverty. 80% of the poverty-stricken people on this planet, 80% on the entire planet, are women and children.
Yeah, that's huge.
Women and children, 80%. 80% of the poverty-stricken people on this planet are women and children. Now, why is that? So there are so many reasons. It's already so hard. The cards are stacked up against her in every way, socially, through law. Law, I mean, is very lame when it comes to protecting. In India, they're fighting for the police to step up and incriminating known rapists. Known rapists. Not even suspect, but known rapists. They're trying to give them, trying to create laws where they get the punishment they deserve. They're fighting for this to happen. The value of women on this planet is horrific.
Yeah. Sometimes it's less than an animal, sometimes.
And often these women have all of those situations that they have to deal with at the same time. The low self-esteem from eons of brainwashing, the circumstance with the husband being in financial dependence on somebody else, not having the ability to pound the pavement and have to look for a job and work like a slave for a certain amount of days a week to produce a certain amount of money to pay for a fucking roof over your head when you were born on a planet that you should have a home and a house to live in because you were born here and that is your birthright? But you have to pay for this? You have to pay for this? And now we have this genius who from Nestle who is saying that water is a privilege. It's not a birthright, and you have to pay for it.
No, you got to pay him for it.
You got to pay him for it, whatever, whoever. They're making it that way. These are all the laws of men. You see, they make life hostile. It has nothing to do with who the woman is or her ways. Nothing. It is completely antagonistic.
Well, it's antagonistic to all life, and then
all life.
All life, yeah.
In fact, all of life.
Yeah, it's almost like it's the infestation that you and I always talk about. Unfortunately, it's personified in humanity and a specific gender of humanity, which is terrible. It's just terrible. And why there is a propensity for that particular gender to carry out these horrific acts against all life is another discussion altogether, which is not a good one either. But these are observations that I think I'm hoping any conscious human being would have these conversations with themselves to find out, to get to the crux of the problem.
No, they're not having that.
And why? And that's the question. Why are they not having that?
Because,
why is that?
Because they're already brainwashed, and especially people in the West, right? They think women got the right to vote, and so we're all equal now, right? And there are some laws that are demanding equal rights and equal pay at work and places like that. But women are still having to fight for them. Just because they're on the law books doesn't mean that these laws are being honored by those who enforce them.
Right.
They're not. Because this situation, this stigma, this psychopathic stigma, is still very much alive on the planet. And people are not questioning it. But, and then you have these people that have, decent relationships, and they're like, oh, I'm fine. And so they don't see anything else. They don't see the whole planet because they have a good relationship, right? So they're not looking at the planet and the situation. And I'm like, you know what? We're having two different conversations. You're talking about yourself.
Right.
And I am talking about human history up until this point. These are two completely different conversations. But no, people don't want to look at it. It's too uncomfortable, Ari. It's just too uncomfortable to think about it.
I know, and it's and even having a conversation like we're having now, it probably won't even land in the right ears.
No.
And we have to hope that somebody even hears this conversation in the radio show, and then hope that they don't turn it off in between one sentence and the other. It's so astronomical what we're facing.
Well, this is the greatest human condition facing humanity since the beginning of time that still exists right now. Talk about the proverbial elephant in the room.
Yeah.
This is the elephant in the room nobody is looking at.
Nope.
They're thinking it's a symptom of something. No, it's not the symptom. It is the direct cause for all of the symptoms.
Right. I know.
Is this gender side, is this gender issue, causes every other problem you can imagine that is happening out there. You can trace it all back to the diabolical patriarchal mindset.
It could be that, of course, that the gender is being used because it's the stronger of the two physically, that it is able to
of course, physically, and the weaker of the two spiritually.
Sure.
And so, of course, it's being used.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there a way to get the message across to the women? Maybe not so much, of course, conversations like what we're having to the women of the world. Many of them are really in such situations that they're not even capable of getting themselves out of those situations. I don't know. But the ones that could make a difference, what is the message to those, women that are probably listening to the show, let's say, that, or have the capability of listening to the show because somebody passes on the information, and hopefully they do. How do we empower ourselves? What does it take to be true with ourselves and say, you know what, let me just, go into my heart and be honest and see if what's going on in my world, in my world, and I mean, I'm talking about their situation in their home, in their lives, does this meet with what we're saying? Is there something happening there that I'm being, that's an oppressive type of relationship, that I'm afraid, that I'm in fear of any kind, whether it's losing the roof over my head, whether it's getting physically, assaulted, sexually assaulted, what is it? Emotionally assaulted, which, my situation. What is it in their lives that they can say, you know what, I've got to be honest, this is happening with me, and I've allowed it to happen, and I'm allowing it to happen also, because I don't want to go without eating. I don't want to go without a roof over my head. I don't want to go without having a companion, regardless of how bad that companion is, because I'm afraid of being lonely. How many of us can actually say, you know what, this is really happening to me, and then from that point on say, I don't want this to happen anymore? How many of us are actually going to take that type of realization and action to propel them forward into empowerment? And what do we do to help that, to allow people to realize, hey, you know what, you do have the power all along. It's just a matter of deciding, making a decision that you're sovereign. Is there anything we can say or do you think, to allow that forward motion? And I'm asking you the question, I don't know.
I think what we can do is we can talk, we can continue to talk, and because there will be a few who will listen and who will ask questions, and if we can be there for them, then that is the least we can do. But I have tried to understand what causes the woman to not see her power in the first place, and it's like I said before, it's the conditioning that has been so long. It has been how she grew up, and the fact that she believed a lot of the nonsense that she was told. And you have to sit with each and every woman to discover what those limiting beliefs are that she may have, and that will take a lot of work to sit individually with each woman to see what it is. Is it a limiting belief system, or does she see this and know it, and yeah, she gets it, but she can't make a move because she's afraid of, XYZ, right? The man coming after her, or losing her home, or losing her kids, being ostracized from her family. She just wants to keep the peace, so she stays, but for empowerment to happen all across the board, the woman has to put her foot down. She has to put her foot down. My greatest hero is a woman named Libwa Giobe, something like that. Oh my God, I'm probably tearing her name apart.
Good job.
This woman fought for peace in Liberia. Now, I look at what's happening in all the countries all over the world. I like to see what's happening with women in all the countries, right? Especially where there's fighting. Yeah. Because wars are created not only to keep people in stress mode, generation after generation, but they are deliberately sent into, because war zones all have the zones where they're fighting, they have their area where they're fighting, but the men are sent into the areas where the women are, because all the men are at war, but the men are sent into the areas where the women are, to rape them, to mutilate them, to rape their children, no matter how young they are, and they do all kinds of horrific things. And the reason why they do this is because they say it destroys the psychology of the entire village or city or community. And that's what they're after. Right? So that's why they go outside of their war zones after the women and children, because it destroys the entire community and the city. Sure. The psychology of the entire people, as a collective, no matter what area it is. It could be a village, it could be a city, it doesn't matter. But it destroys entirely the psychology. And this is the reason why they go and they do these things. And so I'm looking at this place in Liberia where this woman got other women together. They had enough. They put their foot down and they took action. And they put on their white clothing and they went into those camps filled with crazed and psychopathic men and boys with guns. And they waved their handkerchiefs and their flags and their scarves. And they went in there. And a lot of the women had prepared food. And they came in with food to feed the men, to calm them down. So that they could speak with them and so that the men would listen to them. So they had to feed them first.
Okay.
Right? And calm them down. Right? And then plead with them and beg for peace. And this happened enough times. This woman and her other women, they did this enough times so that eventually some of those men literally changed their mind. They decided they didn't want to fight anymore. And they changed around that entire country.
Wow.
And they got out the psychopathic man who was just a man of war. He didn't like women. He was the one in charge of sending in his men to go into those villages and commit all these, homicides and atrocities to the women and children. And they got him out and they replaced him with a female president.
Wow.
And they have peace right now. This is just one demonstration.
Well, that's a great story.
Just one. And it is so powerful. You can follow the entire story. There was a documentary made about this. And it said, the name of this documentary is Pray the Devil Back to Hell.
Wow.
Pray the Devil Back to Hell. And these women put their foot down and they went into the camp of the devil. Okay? And they changed around their circumstances. And this is the situation that we're in. Now, they were desperate. These women had no home and children. They were refugees and they were running. They had no shelter, no nothing. Their children were mutilated by these men. They were This is the circumstances under which they were forced into acting. And I am sorry to say that I think in these Western countries where we have, what is called civilization, that it was going to take something that drastic for women to get together and put their foot down to stop this.
Yeah. That's the proverbial hypnosis that we're in, unfortunately, because we don't really believe, even though we read about it, we hear about it, we can see it in the documentary or whatever, that things atrocities are happening and real death is happening. In a different country.
People, we're old enough to know some people that still existed from World War II.
Right.
And these people will tell you they never had a clue that the horrors that were going to happen that changed their circumstances around were going to happen. They just thought it was going to be a war that took place in the war zones in the sky.
Yeah.
They had no idea of the devastation that was going to happen to their lands and their people, and that those psychopaths were going to come in and destroy psychologically the women and children. This is what upheld the mental stability and the spiritual stability of the people to have hope. But they went in and destroyed that. They destroyed their homes, the women, the children. Oh my God. And they had no idea of the devastation that was going to happen. Why? Because they didn't think that such sickness existed, just waiting for the button to be pushed. And these psychopaths are just waiting for this opportunity to do that, because they're half empty shells who are run by archons, and they're not able to think for themselves and say, no, I'm not going to a war. I'm not fighting your war. You sick bastard. You go back to hell. I am not going to another country to kill anybody for you.
Right.
Okay? Because we don't have enough of those men to say that. Okay? Because just as we go into other countries, I'm not even going to say me because I'm not implicating myself in that psychopathic nonsense. But these men go into other countries and this, we're fighting for freedom. What freedom? When you're going to another country, you're not fighting for freedom. You're going into another country as a trained assassin. Excuse me, let's be real.
Right.
Okay? And you're killing another person who doesn't even know why they're trying to kill you either. And you think that they're not all sitting over there in their country with post-traumatic stress syndrome either, on drugs and on Prozac to keep them sane? Do you think that their veterans hospitals are not full with men who don't understand why they did what they did because one man, two men decided to declare war? Explain this to me, how this happens. Explain to me how thousands and thousands of men decide that they're going to fight a war that is not theirs. I don't understand how this happens.
Yeah. I don't either.
So what is it going to take for women? Women have to put their foot down. They have to understand that they are dealing with direct psychopathy that is just waiting to happen.
So in a country like, in civilized countries, but I can talk about the United States because that's where we're in, you and I. What does that look like, really? I mean, what does it look like for women to step into their power? What does that look like in this country? I mean, do we even have a grasp of what that might look like?
No, there's so much that has to happen. There are so many different things. The woman has to start speaking to the sons, the sons that she has. She gives birth to sons, and she has to speak to her husband, but these men are not listening to her. You see?
I know.
They're not listening to her. So, it takes a collective. It takes a mass collective. This is what was happening in
Liberia
mm-hmm. as well. These women were here and there. They were talking to their husbands, and then they were getting their faces broken. Mm-hmm. He beat the shit out of them.
Right.
It wasn't until they got together en masse and they sat down in protest, did not move, and did what they had to do en masse and made demands that way that things changed, right? So in this civilized country, it's gonna look the same way because these men are not gonna listen to these individual women. They laugh at them. They still laugh. They have such a degree of ignorance and a high level of stupidity, in my opinion, to completely ignore what is obvious. And I think it's because they are, basically possessed and lazy, spiritually lazy.
Well, I'm assuming that there should be some kind of it's like you said, the women getting together, but there should be some kind of organization or...
Women need to organize themselves. Men are organizing themselves constantly, but women do not.
Yeah.
They don't organize themselves.
Well,
it gets desperate.
Yeah, right. But there's got to be a way that women get together and create that cohesiveness so that there is strength in numbers and that they know that all of us have each other's back because we obviously we're scared. We believed the bullshit and we certainly don't want to do it. Go at it on our own, being scared that the dude is going to come after us and break our face again. So we've got to have some kind of a system where we're empowering each other, that we know that we're strong in numbers. So there's got to be some kind of a movement that starts, if there isn't one already that we're not aware of.
There are a lot of organizations that women have formed, and mind you, all of the organizations that are formed to protect women are created and formed only by women, not by men. All right? Do you know what that says? Do you know what that says to somebody that is looking at this planet from off planet? Do you know what that says? I mean, that's just mind-boggling. All right, the protection of women is happening only by women. All right.
Well,
so there are organizations here and there, but it's not. This is such. We're talking about such large numbers and such a large continent, and we have such a diversity of people and beliefs and religions, that it's difficult for them to come together, despite the fact that what is happening really happens to everyone, especially if you look at the whole history of humanity. But nobody's looking at that. They're only looking at their personal life. So a woman that's got it okay, she's not going to be bothered. Why does she want to be bothered? She's got it good. She's okay. She can live with it. You know, there are how many women that say, well, you know, he just abuses me once a week when he gets drunk once a week. You know, that's it. That's no problem. He's good. You know, I've had women tell me, I have a good man. I'm like, really? What makes him good? Well, he comes home every night. He's got a job.
Yeah.
He pays the bills. He doesn't hit me. And, he, you know, he has a car, you know, and this is what makes him good. Really? Really? That's what makes him good? No. You're talking about somebody that's not a criminal. Okay? And just because he's not a criminal, that does not make him a good man. Oh, well, I never thought about it like that. Well, he doesn't beat me. I'm like, you're just talking about someone who's not performing a crime. But you're not talking about what makes him good. Okay? So it's the whole psychology of the woman. It's very few women who see what's going on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to ask myself this question. I mean, I do ask myself this question all the time. What is it going to take? And I think it's going to take nothing but divine intervention. Basically, however that looks, and I don't know. If it's hopeless, I don't know. But that's what it looks like.
Right. Well, but I mean, if we can just take the example of those women in Liberia, my gosh, I mean, you know.
Yeah, but you see the extremes that those women had to
They had to go through extremes, and obviously.
They lived like that all the time. It wasn't until they were really out of their homes and they saw their children, their little girls, their little boys raped by their own men, by their own husbands, by their own brothers, that would come into the villages to do this and take their homes. You know, and beat them, and the stories, mutilate them, cut their legs off. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of women there are in those Liberian refugee camps to this moment? And with one doctor who cares for hundreds of thousands of people, women and children in a camp. Right now, as we speak, we're not talking about history, right? We're talking about right now. And there's women who have no legs or no arms or acid thrown in their faces. And these things are common. And then what's happening now? Those 3 kids that were rescued, those 3 girls that were missing, that were rescued from, I forget this state. I was standing in line the other day and I saw the headlines. You know, they're coming back out and they were abused by this man. They were held captive, chained by wires and chains and whatever in this house for about 10 years. They had gone missing and he raped them all. They were beaten and abused and they bore children and they were beaten so badly by this man, you know, that they...
A nice neighbor. He was a nice neighbor, though.
Oh, he was a nice guy. Yeah, he was one of those nice guys. Very quiet. You see, there you go, with the nice guy. He's a very quiet guy.
Yeah.
Right? So this is how nice is defined in our world. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't disturb the peace, right?
Right.
As long as it's happening behind closed doors, it's not our business. Okay? So, you know, these things happen all the time. Today in the news, they just busted a ring of pedophiles. 255 men. Priests, ministers. There were 255 men and 4 women involved.
Women, huh?
In the exchange of videos and pictures and whatever. I don't know the role these women took, really, and there's always going to be that. But I'm telling you, the numbers are always 98% male.
Oh, yeah.
They know this.
Yep.
The cops know this.
Yep.
I've heard cops and detectives say things over here, you know, to prove this, that is just mind-boggling. So these things are happening all the time, and they said they haven't even scratched the surface. They have so many sting operations going on to bust the pedophilia. They haven't even scratched the surface of how huge this is. That is catering to the men around the world because they are so organized. And these are all the nice guys that we think are nice guys, and we don't know what they're doing behind closed doors because they know how to behave in public.
Sure. Yeah, and then they have a different life altogether, you know, that we don't even know are aware about. Totally different. That's a Jekyll and Hyde personality, sort of. Yeah,
this guy, Ted Bundy, he was a quintessential nice guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody described him as a nice guy. Came from a nice neighborhood. He was quiet, didn't bother anybody. Oh, yeah, he's a nice guy. He's been here for years. And when the women were going missing, mind you, women again, right? This is the victim all the time. When the women were going missing, And they decided to create a search party themselves, the people in the neighborhood. They got the men together and decided to search because this was happening in a small area. And so they decided to get together and hunt this guy down. Guess who was the first one to volunteer to be part of that hunting party?
Well, Mr. Clever himself, I'm sure.
Yes, he was the first one to volunteer. That's how nice he is, you see? He was the first one to volunteer.
He's a good Samaritan.
He was a good Samaritan.
Yeah.
He was the first one, and he was all gung-ho, and he was eager to help and try to hunt this guy down. And it was him. Okay? That's how they work. And women cannot fathom this. I mean, no, if you tell people about concentration camps and what happened in concentration camps, they will tell you they cannot believe that anybody could even conceive of these things, let alone do them.
Yep.
And yet the concentration camps existed.
Yeah.
And there's just so much fallacy of thinking. Oh, they wouldn't do that, or they're not going to do it again, or we're past that, right? We're past it. We don't do that. Well, every atrocity is happening right now as we speak at greater and greater levels than ever before in history.
Now, do we, wow. Do we attribute these atrocities to what we were discussing the other day with Rosemary Guiley?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To the fact that there's just she used the word disturbing, a very interesting word to use, disturbing amount of this type of activity with respect to these forces. She calls them jinn. They could be anything. I mean, what the heck do we know? We're not even wanting to pay attention to the obvious in front of us, let alone those forces that we can't even see with our own eyes.
Exactly. So, and this is cognitive dissonance on a global scale. This is why everybody is in the situation that they are, because their mind is fighting with two different realities. One is the reality that these things exist and they're trying to exist and coexist with them. And the other reality is that they are trying to just live their lives and have peace in their lives. And these things are a battle in our own lives for almost every person, except for those who have their heads in the clouds.
And it's
major.
And it's so beyond our comprehension and our abilities to even name or put some kind of sense around it that, it's like, oh, well, you know what, it's not happening in my life, so I got to watch the football game on TV.
Yeah, because it feels better, and I do that too. I do it too. I get, that I disappear for days, and you don't hear from me, and I can't talk, and I don't want to think, I don't want to look at it, because here I am studying it in every aspect of the word, and all over the world too, I might add, because that's what I do, and then I have to take a break from it because it's so painful. And it brings us back around to the beginning of our point. It's like, okay, so these people who are defining our history, human history, right? These people who are standing up and defining what is happening, I find that it's coming clearly from only half of the perspective, only half of the picture. That there is another half that is not being spoken about. Right. And we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it from our perspective.
Right.
And how much of this information is true? They're saying it's true, and they're saying that it's true for everyone.
Yeah.
And yet they will give you the caveat, right? Don't believe everything. Just take what resonates in your heart. You know what? Well, my heart has been broken into pieces, and it shatters every time they give me this story about how it is the cause of the woman that has brought this life and this existence as it is on planet Earth to the horrific conditions that it is right now, because that's not what I'm seeing out in the world.
No.
So we have to take this information with a grain of salt. I mean, I think that they have interesting pieces of the puzzle, but they are certainly missing quite a lot. And I think women need to step up and start creating. They need to start doing what they do best and start creating.
Yeah. Wow. It is mind-boggling, really. No, it really is, because a lot of these people, of course, they're experts, and in their field. A lot of
so-called experts. They're calling themselves experts. Other people are calling them experts or authorities. And I take that with a grain of salt as well.
Yeah.
Because they're not speaking for me. They're not speaking for the worlds that I come from or the worlds that I have created. Okay? They cannot tell me that there's this popular one that goes around saying every single person has been a rapist, a murderer, a good Samaritan, a this, and every single one has been both. Every single person has been both. You know what? Well, when I listen to my body and when I listen to my heart, I can give a very simple example, okay? Let's say I'm looking at a scene in the times of the Inquisition during the 17th and 18th centuries, where they were burning people alive at the stake, where the men were burning people, especially women, alive at the stake. Alive. Can you imagine what this is? Now, first, I can look at this woman who is standing tied to a stake, and seeing her burn and hearing her scream and smelling the hair burning and the flesh burning. God help me. But, and I can tell you that I do not need to experience that. I can see it, but I can tell you for a fact that nowhere ever does my soul need to experience that. And this is through the act of simple observation. And I can take it even further. I can say that the person who is lighting the flame and burning up that woman or man or child at the stake, the one who set the flame up, who committed this atrocity by performing it and acting it out, I can tell you I would not want to be him either. Not ever. Just by watching and observing this, through the act of simple observation, I can tell you that these are things that I never, ever want to experience in the life of my soul. Ever. I don't need to experience this. I can look at it and I can see it and I can tell you that I am choosing not to experience that because I don't need to. I can see what is happening there.
Right.
So when somebody tells me that I have been the rapist, I have been the murderer, he is making such a huge, arrogant assumption that I can't even begin to describe the assault to my soul and to the limited perception that this person has by telling me that I have been this thing that he describes simply because he has a certain belief that says he has been it himself.
Yeah, it's the belief that he has, the name that he's already made for himself. How that happened, I don't know. That person I know who you speak of, in my opinion, has been extremely compromised, as many of these so-called experts have, in the respect that the information, wherever they're getting it from or how they're interpreting it, it may not be in the most accurate way. It doesn't resonate with me either. And
no, they're speaking for themselves, Ari. All they are doing is speaking for the reality that they have. And as grand as they think it is, as huge as their perception is, I've been beyond this dimensions. I've been all the way up to the 12th, 19th, 20th, 30th, 80th, whatever dimension. I have been there and I have seen the bigger picture, and I'm looking down and, he's looking down at us like we're ants.
Sure.
And I have seen every single soul, and I can tell you for a fact that you have been every horror that there ever existed. No, you're speaking for yourself and your perception. Because we don't need to, there are beings that I can tell you for a fact, from myself. I can't prove it because they're not here right now, except for myself, who do not need to experience these things based on simple observation. Not experience. I don't need to trip and fall and break my face to know that it hurts. This is elementary. This is elementary 101.
Right.
Consciousness. You do not have to have this experience to know you don't want it.
No, it seems to me it's the sales job. And remember, I've been in sales for many years, and you've got to present the the good reason as to why the person might want to buy your product. Those hot buttons. It seems like a hot button thing. It's like, it makes absolute sense. That you would have to experience this so that you can understand and you can grow from that. And it's a sales job, and it's coming from.
I'm not going to grow from looking at somebody being burnt at the stake and saying I want to experience that. I'm not going to grow. I'm going to be stunted. My soul is going to be traumatized. It's going to run. It's going to hide. It is going to be stunted. It is a limiting factor. These are stumbling blocks in the path of a soul. They are not lessons. They are not growth. It is not growth. It is the opposite of growth.
Yeah. But then again, we're back to those forces that we're talking about. That who's really giving this disinformation, so that these guys who are calling themselves the experts are broadcasting this explanation on behalf of the perpetrators, the actual animators of these atrocities and these things, so that the reason as to why we have to come back over and over again. Now you have to experience getting burned at the stake because you lit the match last time.
Yeah.
So now you got to experience that.
This is archonic workings of the mind. What they're saying basically is that there is no such thing as innocence.
Huh.
This is what they're saying. There is no such thing as innocence in the world. Mm-hmm. Everyone is corrupted, has been a criminal and a horrific murderer, rapist, pedophile, a bankster, whatever you name
Sure.
it. That's what everyone has been, and they're comfortable with that. They're comfortable incriminating everybody else with their reality, with
Right.
their paradigms.
Right.
And they convince themselves, and because they are so convinced that they themselves become convincing.
Oh yeah.
When you're convinced of something, let me tell you, you can be very convincing. And when you're talking and you're very convincing, and people adopt it, oh yeah, this is reincarnation. I have been this one, I have been that one, I've done it all, I've been here, yep, mm-hmm. And I've even heard some people say, God bless them, that they even remember some of the lifetimes where they've done those things. Yeah, okay, well, good for you. You remember that. You're taking, into account your own memories and being responsible. That's okay. But what they are saying when they incriminate other people, and I have seen innocent people, I have seen them, I have met them, they are saying that there is no such thing as innocence, as all goodness. They're saying this does not exist. Now, in my mind and in my heart, there's only one kind of creature that would say mm-hmm. things like that. Mm-hmm. There's only one kind of creature that would say, there is no such thing as innocence. There is no such thing as all good. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as an all-loving, all-good, innocent being. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing.
Yeah, I know.
There's only one creature that I know of that would say something like that. And I don't want to listen to him.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that gravitate to that kind of stuff, and it comes down to discernment, not recognizing, the true information from the convoluted and corrupt information. And I can't stop from saying that, because it is really, it's the cause of our demise should we continue this way, Serena. That people in this time frame that we're in, we're not in the times of the Crusades, we're not in the times of, the Middle Ages. We're supposedly in the times of enlightenment here. And people are still gravitating to men and even women who are making names for themselves, that are bringing information that is just so off the mark. And
it works for them. It's on the mark for them. I truly believe that it's their story. It is their story. They're convinced, and they know it, and it is their story. But it's not everyone's story. It's not.
So what does this mean then? What does this mean? It's not everyone's story. Does everyone have? Are we all creating our own universe? Is that what we're all doing? We're all ascending to our own minds. That we're all creating our own universe in that mind, and that's our 5D in our head.
5D. I don't know. I wouldn't limit it to 5D.
12D, 15D.
I think some people come from other higher dimensions, but I certainly do not believe that every person was part of, for example, they talk about the Orion Wars.
Right.
I think we have a few minutes left, and I'll make it brief. So they talk about the Orion Wars and all of these other galactic wars. And yes, I know that those things existed. But not every single race and species and soul in the entire universe was a part of that.
Right.
There are species that can look at that and say, I'm not being part of that. I'm not going to be a part of it. Not now, not ever. You don't need to. See, they're of the mindset that you can only grow from these things. And there are two questions that I have right there. I'm like, first of all, why do you need that the soul that is divine in the first place needs to grow? If it is divine,
right?
It's already divine. It doesn't need.
It's already perfect. It's what is there to grow to?
It just needs to be. It just needs to be and expand what it is.
Right.
That's all it needs. So this is an assumption right there.
Right.
And the other assumption is that it has to happen. That this growth, if it needs to happen at all, this growth has to happen under such dire and horrific, painful, suffering circumstances. And that's bullshit. I can totally see myself learning under peaceful conditions. I don't need to learn. I don't need to be in a war to know I don't want to do it. Not to myself or to anyone else. I don't need to be part of it. I can just look at it and tell you.
Right.
Guys, that's so difficult.
Yeah, it's constant generalization, I guess, of putting everybody in a box. Everything is comes from here. Everything goes here. It's everything. Everybody's in a box, and there's no allowance for the diversity of different life streams that have come into the planet with different experiences, I guess, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then if you say you disagree, they're like, oh, no, I have the picture. I was there. I was looking at the records directly. I have direct contact. Oh, no, I traveled through the cosmos and all the dimensions, and I saw it, and I was, I got it all, No. Okay? No, you don't. And the divine does not, first of all, need growth, because it is divine. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that, and that's okay. I don't need to convince anybody. They'll have to find out for themselves. And that if as the divine, I wanted more experience, then I'm definitely going to choose that experience. But if expansion needs to happen, then it's going to happen through pleasure and joy. I mean, this goes for absolutely anything. I mean, you just look at a person who is in pain and in agony, and they're all tight in a ball and all tense and everything. This is pain and agony, and then, for any progress to be made or healing to be made, that tightness has to be dissipated, right? They have to calm down, and they have to loosen up, and then healing can start taking place, and this is expansion, right? Healing can only take place in a place of positivity. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Not through pain. I mean, if you can look at it from at the microcosmic level with a single person to the macrocosmic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need pain for growth. This is totally our concept. If the devil himself were to say anything or give us a philosophy that he wanted spread around the world, that would be it. You can only grow from pain. Only pain and suffering. This is what makes you grow. Who the fuck needs to grow like that?
Right. Leave me where I'm at. I don't want to know.
I certainly don't need that. I'm choosing another way. And there are people who do choose another way, who don't have this limited philosophy that they're trying to enforce into everybody else's mind, that they have all the answers about these things. No, they don't. Yeah. No, they don't have all the answers. And
some of the answers, like you said, it might work for them, but it's not a fix-all. It's not, you can't use that as the formula for all the answers there.
There is no man who can speak for every single soul on this planet that has ever lived or ever will live.
Yeah.
No man can speak for every single soul ever. No one can do that. Sorry. So.
Yeah. No,
and all of these people, we have to just take what they offer with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I really think we need to start coming up and talking about our own story and the world that we lived and the world that we saw and wanted to create and live in, and stop listening to all of these other experts with all of these horrible interpretations. It's sickening.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do we know? How do you say that when you hear something that is not resonating with you, you feel, well, how do you know that
my whole body, it gets tight and tense.
Mm-hmm.
It gets tight and tense, and I have been like other people. I have investigated this, and why is it getting tight and tense? Could it be all of these other psychological things that they tell you? Oh, you're just in denial. You don't want to believe in. Okay, well, I've examined all of that. I have taken the time to examine myself and to understand when I become tense, what is happening. And eventually time will prove all of the answers that I have, to the questions that I have ongoing. So when I wanted to find out why I was getting tense, I would ask myself, is it because it's a non-truth, it's a lie, or am I in denial, or could it be X, Y, or Z? And I've taken all of those things and examined them and sat with them enough times to understand that I myself know that when I'm responding that way, it is not because I'm in denial, because I have had to learn a lot of things that were ugly and horrific, but that they are true. You see? So it's not that I'm ignoring ugly things. I'm not. If it's true, it's true. But when it's a lie, my body tenses up. Terribly. My stomach goes into knots. And then I'll sit and I'll think about it for days and days and days and weeks, and I'll analyze it. I'll study, I'll research, I'll read, I'll be quiet, I'll go into nature, everything. And if this gel doesn't happen within me, then it's a lie. So it's a lie for me. It may be true for them, but it's a lie for me.
Okay, so let me ask you, has something happened recently that triggered this for you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to share?
No.
You don't have to name names.
No. It's just bottom line is once again, I have had to learn, sitting with this for weeks, that it's not my story. What this man is talking about is not my story. He's talking about a lot of other people, but he doesn't have my story. He doesn't know what happened with my people and my history or my soul history. He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that,
Right.
Because I do know what innocence is. And I'm not going to have any expert tell me that I'm as corrupted as his history is. I'm not having it.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. And, what I love about you is the fact that you should be cloned. It's just I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I should just sit on that for a minute before I say that again. No, seriously, because you exemplify what, in my opinion, would be the feminine power. You really do exercise that, and you exercise your autonomy and your sovereignty. You speak your mind. You're extremely knowledgeable because you've done a lot of introspection, which is so crucial. You gotta do introspection. You have to be honest with yourself, and you do that a lot. And
well, I'm basically quarantined.
You have no choice.
Right.
Right. But that's true. That kind of helps. But we should all get quarantined then. No, but I mean, seriously, I mean, you are able to see the bullshit, right away. I mean, it might not be right away, but you do sit with it. And if you have to sequester yourself, you do. Serena, where are you? Where are you? It's like, I don't know. I even called you today. I thought you were. I was wondering if you were on the planet.
Yeah.
I was gonna come and find you and kick your butt because you left me behind. Thinking you took off to another world and you left me here.
No, I have arranged a text message to be sent to you.
I was even going to send you a plane, one of those little, 2-engine planes that you love so much with a sign, Serena, call me.
No.
But what I'm trying to say, I guess, what I'm trying to communicate with all the women that are listening is that it's really, really important that we get to that point in our lives of being honest with ourselves, being honest with our situation, having a desire to make a change because, you know what? Because you deserve love. And it's not love necessarily outside of yourselves, but love of self.
Yes.
Number
oh my
one.
God, I'm so glad you said that. That is so important.
Holy cow. I mean, how can you expect anyone else to love you if you don't love yourselves, first of all? And because the kind of love that you're trying to get is flawed, number one, and it's dependent on something else. It's not unconditional. If you're in a situation that is not of it's not a divine relationship where there's mutual respect and mutual love and it's unconditional. I mean, usually when we're in that kind of situation, usually it's because we don't love ourselves first. That should be primary, the first thing you're seeking. And in my situation, again, I did not love myself. When I was in a bad marriage, I did not love myself. I really had really self-esteem issues, major self-esteem issues, because I was different since I was young. I was a fish in a different pond. And I didn't fit in, and I couldn't fit in even if I wanted to try to fit in because I was different and I was perceived as different. And so be it. But because of that, and trying to blend in, I compromised. And
yes, this is always the
right?
bottom line. You try to blend in, you try to accept, you try to,
Yep.
but if your soul is being ripped apart by what you're hearing, or if you have pain in your heart because you're hearing something that just breaks your heart, then you know it's not true. It's not true for you.
Right.
And you have to dare. You have to dare to think for yourself and to trust your own thoughts and feelings. This is exactly the crux of it.
Yep.
Trusting your own thoughts and your own feelings. I mean, when I was 4 years old, I understood I was on my own. I knew I could not trust anything I was hearing outside of myself.
Yep.
I mean, absolutely. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
yeah,
that's
I had
fine.
to agree with that.
That's
so
awesome.
Please continue. Yes, please.
No, I'm just saying that, you have to be able to understand that you have every right to be happy. You have every right to live a peaceful life. You have every right to self-express. And so on with everything that goes with that, to feel harmony, to feel peace, to be in a place that you're safe, in your thoughts, safe in your physical, emotionally. So that is your right. And if you don't have that, and you're not doing something about it, then you don't love yourself. Period. And that's why you're, could be in a situation that is less than the divine, because your divine self should be able to be in that divine space of absolute harmony and peace and love and everything else. If it's not that, then why not? Then that means you're allowing it, because you're not speaking up. Your being is not speaking up for your own sovereignty.
Right.
And that comes from lack of love, lack of, wanting to love yourself. That should be number one. And that propels everything else. When you finally say, you know what, I've had it. I've loved myself too much, and I know who I really am as a being and what I'm capable as a being. That is that self-love. That breaks all the illusion, and then you're in a space where you're capable of taking back your power. But you've got to be willing to recognize, number one, that that you're not loving yourself. Once you recognize that, then allow yourself to love yourself.
Yeah, and it's, if you can't, and that can be really hard for a lot of people. They can't do it. They try, but then, you can do a little bit. You can do a little bit in steps, right? I mean, it does go in steps anyway. Like, number one, trust your thoughts, right? You need to put yourself in a place where you are operating from integrity, and if you are operating from integrity, then your thoughts are trustworthy,
right, from
that place. So you have to make a decision to be absolutely integritous, if that is a word. I don't care. I just made it up. How fun is that? I can do that if I want to.
Yes, we can. We can.
I can totally do it.
I love it.
And so you decide you want to operate from a place of integrity all the time. This can be life-changing for some people. For others, it's just another step. And then when you're operating from that place of integrity with everything that you do, everything, and I mean everything, right? Then you can trust your thoughts, because they will be coming from that place, right? You'll know that telling a lie is uncomfortable. Oh, I'm not doing that. That's not integrity. I'm going to be honest, even if it hurts. So that's integrity, right? So integrity itself, the quality, will guide you. And then you can trust what's happening from that point. So you trust your thoughts, and then you trust your feelings.
Right.
Right. So I happen to be a person who is pretty much fearless. Okay. I don't have a lot of fear.
Right.
But a lot of people do have a lot of fears, and I learned that late. You see, because I thought everybody was like me. So you get up and you fight when somebody's doing this, and you get up. Why aren't you fighting him?
Right.
You're scared. I'm like, then I realized, and I didn't know what fear was. I learned what fear was when I was 40 or 41 years old. That's when I learned what fear was. And I didn't know. I had to go to a doctor's office and all of this stuff.
Wow.
Then I had to find out. I was horrified. I was shocked when I realized what it was. And then I had to discover why. Why was I feeling this fear? That was a trip. That was a trip and a half, learning why I had this fear, where it came from, how it descended on me, and all of that. Then that's a whole other story. But for a lot of people, they live with fear on a daily basis, fear of so many different things. And they have to be eradicated. You have to get rid of fear. So if you're operating from a place of integrity and you're fearless, you can trust your feelings, because now the fear is not corrupting them, right? So you can trust yourself. And this is a process. I mean, I've been engaged in this process for my whole life. I'm telling you, I mean, I have done my homework. So that's why I know, I'm not in denial. When I hear something that is, BS coming from these people, I know it's BS, that they can't speak for me. They can only speak for themselves, right? So, but it takes trusting yourself and trusting your feelings when you are operating from a place of integrity, and that's a decision that you have to make. And when you have all of this going on, then you can really start to begin to love yourself, because something else blooms and blossoms from the inside.
Sure.
When you're there, right? And then that's when this divine language starts to speak up within you, and you can't predict what that's going to look like or what it's going to say, but it just blossoms, right? You don't know when you're planting seeds and you're watering that garden, and the sun and the soil are doing its magic over days and weeks and months. You don't know the day that a blossom is going to open. You don't know that day. Right. Nobody does, right? But it'll happen, right? So we have to treat ourselves like a garden on the inside, right? We have to plant the seeds of integrity, right? And let it bloom and blossom. Eventually, it'll speak the truth for us, and we'll know what the truth is, and we can be guided by that. And then we become fearless, and we can trust our feelings. and then we decide to be of service or not, right?
Yeah.
I decided to be of service to the best of my ability because I had a number of people on my case to come out of the closet, as it were. So I decided, okay,
Right.
I'll do it for a little while. We'll see how that goes. So I decided to speak, and hopefully I can help somebody gain clarity
Sure.
and power, because that's what I want. I want people to have clarity and to have power. I want that.
Yeah. And that's a good little segue of what I'm going to say, and so we can close the show. It's interesting that, again, you and I are doing this. So many times I figure, oh my gosh, it's time for the show, and it's like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And just... Or
you're like me, and I'm like, I have nothing to say.
We really don't have anything to say that we haven't already expressed, but you know what? You never know who's going to be listening that's new, number one, in the show. And we really don't know what effect we're having in a positive way. That there's a lot of people out there that, unfortunately, sometimes they have to hear it again and again and again from us because... the points are really, really important for people to understand. Most of it, what especially my mission is to get us all not only on the same page with a lot of concepts. So the main concept being that we really need to connect directly to source and leave all the. I decided to coin a new word. And did you know that I coined a new word?
No,
it's called disinformation brokers.
Huh?
That's a new word. I coined it. I coined it in the website, and I'm speaking it now on the show. Disinformation brokers. We need to let go of the addiction that a lot of us have on disinformation brokers. And who are the disinformation brokers? A lot of these so-called experts, most channeled material. A very high percentage, in the 90-something percent, the channel information. A lot of, these, teachers, so-called gurus, they come from their own truth, of course, but, and then they bring in a lot of truisms that feel good and resonate with our being, and then along with that, of course, comes the disinformation. So it would be much better, in my opinion, if you were to go get a car and you wanted to buy a car that was at a really good price and that you knew was not, taken on board a ride on a big truck to get transported and maybe have some of the interior of it rattled, and it would be much better if you went directly to the manufacturer and got that car at a much better price because you got rid of all the brokers. And you got rid of all the possibility of that car being juggled around and transportation problems and whatnot. So you're getting it directly from source, right? So that's my point. I made that stupid analogy just to make a point. The point is, it's better to get rid of the brokers and go directly to source.
Do you know why? I've tried to figure out why so many people are, follow and believe what these people are talking about, these ones who become authors and write books and, tell us everything, that is going on because this is what happened and this is the way it is, right? I'm like, why do people fall for this? And how come things don't change, things don't improve? Because everybody's hanging on the words of these people, really, and they're not doing their own thing because they're listening and hanging on to these words, because every single one of them have you waiting for something. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that?
Yep.
They have you waiting for something.
Yep.
That's another common denominator. Okay, that's number one. But truth is a funny thing. Truth is something that is very delicate. It is very because I think truth is connected to the organic light. It is a very delicate substance. Yep. And a lie is like, it's a block hitting you on the head, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think when people can't access the truth because the lie is such a bully and it's so overbearing and it's so heavy and it's so dense that it covers you like oil on a duck. Have you ever seen those ducks that are swimming in the ocean, and they're, the ocean is pristine and sparkly and blue and light, and the water, they shake and it's all gone, right?
Yeah.
See, that's truth. And then you have the lie, which is like the oil, when they're covered with oil and they come out and they can't breathe, and they're suffocated, and they're suffering, and somebody has to come and clean them up with chemicals and all of this other stuff to get that duck clean again, right? And so the lie is like the oil, right? It's heavy. It smothers you. So until you find a way to get off the oil or the lies, then the truth is not going to sparkle its way through and make itself clear to you.
Right.
That's another analogy. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And people have to work hard to get rid of the truths. But the thing is, a lot of them don't even want to.
That's true.
They don't even want to.
You have to want to.
Yes, they have to want to.
You have to want to. And
the truth hurts sometimes, but it is clear, and it will give you power in the long run without fear.
Right.
Truth without fear. That's our new motto. That's it.
All
Truth
right.
Without fear.
So you coined that, and I'll coin the other one. Okay. And So anyway, we've reached the end of our show. Actually, we're just a little bit over, but that's fine. Again, it's just information that, it's the way that we observe things through a lot of introspection, using the bullshit meter that we have developed over time. I mean, Serena's developed hers, I've developed mine. It just so happens that she and I and many others that I communicate with as well, because a lot of what I do when I have an introspection or I have a major aha moment, I share this information with other people that I deem that are on the same page as I am, to see if to bounce it off, to see if they pick it up also the way that I'm seeing it. And when I get a consensus, then I go, you know what? It's probably the way that it probably is. So Serena and I, do a lot of introspection, and because we just happen to be on the same mission right now, which is getting on the airways and giving this information to as many people want to hear it, so that if hopefully it sparks a little aha moment in you, and that maybe the seed grows also, maybe blossoms in there. But the ultimate truth really is, is really nothing other than don't believe me, believe Serena, don't believe anybody else, don't believe the experts. Just connect directly and get the information directly from the horse's mouth, which is, source, the creator. You're not going to get any better than that, believe me. It will be pristine. And when you get that information, then I'm hoping that it empowers you to do what you need to do, so that you can come from self-love, and through that self-love, you can be everything that you can be. And with that also, it means removing yourself from situations that are not in your best interest. So with that said, this is Ari Kopel again and Serena with Shattering the Matrix. Every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m., actually 9 p.m. Let me say that again. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will see you again next week. Right, Serena?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm counting on you, I don't want to do soliloquies.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Okay, good night.
Night.
You've been listening to Shattering the Matrix with your host, Ari Kopel and Serena. Please visit our website, 2012emergence.com. That's 2012emergence.com. Find us on Twitter at Matrix Shattered, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shattering the Matrix. Listen to archived shows at blogtalkradio.com/Shattering the Matrix. And join us next time for the birth of the new golden era on Shattering the Matrix.